Hello, welcome to the Sports Philanthropy Podcast. I am your host, Roy Kessel, and today we are very excited to have with us a special guest. We have BJ Ganem. BJ is the founder and CEO of Sierra Delta. So BJ, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Roy.
We're excited to learn more about the great work that you're doing through Sierra Delta, but I want to back you up to your childhood and learn more about BJ and how you developed the passion for sports in your youth.
Well, I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and in Georgia, college football is big. And I grew up watching Herschel Walker and listening to Larry Muntz call the Georgia football games. You know, I remember even when we were watching it on TV, we would turn the TV volume down and put the radio volume up to hear that special call. You know, Dale Murphy and the Atlanta Braves. You know, I was a little young for when Hank Aaron was there, but you know, always grew up around the Braves, you know, the Falcons and Steve Bartkowski and all that stuff. So I loved all the traditional sports and, of course, played a ton of sports growing up. Football was always my favorite. And then once I got older, I got into golf, and especially after I got injured in the Marine Corps, you know, I took up golf a little bit more as it was good therapy for me. I'll put it that way. I used to always look down at golf as it was an easy sport. But there's never been a game that's challenged, you know, outside of maybe chess, you know, that challenges your mental acuity and a lot of your emotions than golf does. That ball isn't moving. A lot of times you're playing in perfect conditions with well-cut grass, and it's still one of the most frustrating and hardest games. But it is also so rewarding when you do hit that good shot, or you birdie a hole, or you know, all that good stuff. So yeah, I grew up watching it, grew up playing it, and just love the games and love the lessons that these games teach us.
You point out a great point about golf, which is it objectively from the outside, you look at it and you think it should be a lot easier than it is, because in most other sports, something is moving, right? You have a defender, you have somebody coming at you, the ball is moving, you've got to time things, and yet it's a very challenging game. You always hear the quote about insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And I always say to people, no, that's called golf.
That's called golf. That's right. That's funny.
So, you know, you referenced briefly your injury. And so, you know, tell us a little bit about, you know, when that occurred and, you know, as you went through school and your career before you got there, you know, what were you studying and what were your plans?
So I went to school in Savannah, Georgia at this small Catholic private all boys high school called Benedictine Military Academy there in Savannah. It's been around since the early 1900s, and did well. I mean, pretty well. I got kicked out for 1 year for disciplinary reasons and let back in my senior year, and you know, finished with a good, strong B average. And in Georgia, you get what's called, if you get a B average, you can get what's called the Hope Scholarship. And so I went to Georgia Southern University on the Hope Scholarship. But after 1 year of not really paying attention to my studies and focus more on all the things that life had to offer, I was asked politely not to come back due to academic probation. And so on a whim, I joined the United States Marine Corps in 1996, left for boot camp in December, with the only plan that I would be able to get out in time for St. Patrick's Day in Savannah. So I missed Christmas, I missed New Year's, I missed the Super Bowl, all that stuff. So I can get out for St. Patrick's Day in Savannah, have my 10 days leave, have that good celebration, and then it was off to the School of Infantry. And I didn't realize it at the time. You know, I kind of joined the Marine Corps, like I said, on a whim, but it was one of the best decisions I made. And then fast forward to 2000, I ended my 4-year career, but I wanted to stay in, but I wanted to get back into actually working money. So I took a job with Kraft Foods and then stayed in the active reserve. So I drilled 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year. Well, September 11th, 2001, everything changed. I was still in, the towers go down. We were activated in 2004 to go to Iraq in support of Iraqi freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom. And on Thanksgiving night of 2004, I was hit with the 13th IED I went through which killed my gunner Ryan Cantafio of Beaver Dam and caused me to lose my leg below the knee on the left side, and it ostensibly ended my military infantryman career. You can see the leg back there. That's one of my old legs. And it has the initials of the 5 guys we lost: Cantafio, Ramey, O'Donnell, Warrens, and Simon. It spells crows. I always try to say their names in a way to keep them immortal. And it's just our way of staying tied to the guys that paid the ultimate sacrifice, even for the rest of us that sacrificed a little, but we still had a lot left to give. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I wasn't ready. And so I went through some troubling times, the stereotypical going through a divorce, get a DUI charge, end up facing bankruptcy. And in some of those darkest moments, even though I have a great friends and great family, I come from, I had a good network around me, you still get desperate. And my most desperate time at the time, I had an old English bulldog. You can see a picture of him back behind me. I'd gotten him on my first convalescent leave from Walter Reed. I got 8 weeks old. I found him in Craigslist as a litter. Now knowing what I know about puppy mills, I wouldn't do it that way. But, no real special talents with that dog. No real training, but he was my dog. He instinctively knew when to lay on my leg when I was having phantom pains and whatnot. And no special talent so that he can get slobber in places that you would think was physically impossible to get slobber into. Could eat a piping hot cheeseburger in one bite, maybe clear a room with his farts, right? Outside of that, nothing real tangible. But he was my dumb dog. And in my darkest moments, when I actually thought about doing the most desperate thing, I knew that if I did that, no one would want to take care of Dozer. He would end up in a shelter and most likely get killed. And that stuck with me because that was enough for me to pull my own head out of my ass, my butt, and start focusing on what I need to do in my life to take ownership to get better. And that was really impactful to me. But in short, that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of my military career and kind of how I fell into all this veterans in transition and how to solve these problems.
Yeah, and I think you hit on some key points, which is you talk about the impact that career had on you, and obviously not only physically but emotionally. You look at what happened with, as you said, calling out the names of the other individuals. I'm going to ask you to send me their names as well as we do our piece on this podcast, and put the page up with all the information about Sierra Delta and the links to the organization, making sure that those individuals are listed there as well, and recognized as part of your story, because it is a big part of your story. So you're working at Kraft, and where did things go after that?
So, typical, I was doing good. I went back to school utilizing the vocational rehabilitation. It's a Chapter 35 Chapter 31 is a government program that helps veterans, especially if you served in, say, the infantry, right? Those skill sets aren't really useful in the civilian world. So it's helped you to get retrained in something that is useful. And I was going for business, but I was spending all my time volunteering for organizations that had helped me out while I was in the hospital, like Semper Fi Fund, the Wounded Warrior Project, the VFWs, the American Legions, all those. And working in Kraft was great. I loved the teams and loved that, but I realized my heart wasn't in business anymore. So I switched kind of midstream. I only had maybe a couple of semesters left to finish that business degree, and I switched to psychology, got an undergrad from University of St. Leo down in Florida, and then went on to get my master's in social work from the University of Southern California with an emphasis on military life and transition. Went to work as a county veteran service officer, helping other vets get their benefits and whatnot, understanding. But working for the government really wasn't my cup of tea. Trying to bring innovation into government is really hard. And so I left and went to work for a nonprofit, the Semper Fi Fund, one of the organizations that was there for me and continues to be there for me. They're an amazing organization. And from there, I learned a lot. And as I would go around and work with all these vets, I would see a lot of the vets had these medical assistant service dogs, and they were doing wonders for them. But I also saw that a lot of times the veterans with these type of dogs didn't always bring them everywhere with them. And that made sense to me because a lot of the transition issues that veterans face are not permanent. Even PTSD, when I first got back, it was a lot harder, knowing that I'd gone through so many IEDs and a few things. When I first got back and was driving down to the VA one day on 9094, you know it, right through the heart of Wisconsin, heading right to Madison. Somebody was pulled over on the side of the road and they popped their trunk, and it forced me to lock up my brakes and go right into a herringbone. And I was sweating and all this other stuff. Thankfully, no one was around behind me. I didn't cause an accident. I was able to kind of move off to the side of the road, compose myself, and bring it back together. But after time and through working through it and whatnot, that stuff, you kind of get it back and put it in the right boxes. But every now and again, different things trigger those emotions again and those feelings. And so we have to be cognizant of it. And that's when I started realizing there's more to this dog veteran relationship, and looking into it. I mean, of course, for 35,000 years, humans and dogs have been working together, right? I mean, do you have a dog, Roy? I can't remember if you do or not.
I don't currently have a dog, but I grew up with dogs in my parents'
Yeah,
home in Madison, and my ex, we always had dogs growing, there for
sure.
the kids. So I'm used to dogs.
Right. And funny thing is 72% of American households have a dog in it. And in 2019, this country spent $75 billion a year on pet accessories, a lot of that driven by dogs. So I was looking at this and thinking, well, if there's 150,000 vets, that's the estimated that needs a medical assistant service dog. There's 18 million vets in this country, and that number is decreasing every year. We also, for large breed dogs, we kill 800,000 healthy, trainable, and adoptable dogs every year in this country. We should be able to merge this together. And that's where I developed Sierra Delta, making service dogs more accessible and expanding what service dogs mean, right? Because nobody truly knows. Technically, there's the traditional model is that it's always a guide dog, right? It guides the blind, or it helps the mobility impaired, right? But it's expanding more. There's no such thing as a PTSD service dog, but yet there's a lot of dogs that are being trained for veterans that are suffering with PTSD. The problem is that it's causing a lot of confusion. And what we wanted to do was be able to provide an easy way for veterans to access this type therapy. Like, it's what a dog does for you. Like, it's well documented that just petting a dog reduces your serotonin level, which causes stress, right? That's the hormone within your body that causes stress. Now, obviously, this doesn't work if you're afraid of dogs, right? Like, if you have a natural inclination to be afraid of dogs, a dog can't help you. But if you are, like the majority of Americans, especially if you are like dogs and you want a dog around, it does help. So what we decided to do at Sierra Delta was to make this accessible to all vets. You only need two things to be able to be a part of Sierra Delta. You need to have shown that you have served your country in any capacity. You don't have to serve in war. You don't have to be broken. You don't have to be injured. You don't have to serve for lifelong. You could only serve for 2 or 4 years, whatever. And you have to have the capacity to love and care for a dog. And what Sierra Delta does is provide you training grants, and we provide you this app in this community to where you can record what you're doing with your dog, meet other veterans that have dogs as well. And we've gamified the process. So the more you do with your dog and the more you do for community service, you get points. And with those points, you can get discounts on gear, you can get access to free products, you can even get access to experiences. So, like, I captain that flag football team, the Sierra Delta flag football team that plays against NFL alumni, mostly, in the days before the Super Bowl. And so vets can earn their way onto that team by what they do with their dog and in their community. And It's all managed on this app. And if the veterans do need that medical assistance dog, that traditional service dog, we are helping them get to the right academies to where they get that help and that support, right? But the 150,000, that's 1% of the total veteran population. So we're trying to serve as many of the vets as possible, and also at the same time help a lot of these shelter dogs. So one of the things that we're going to focus on next year, because we're up to like 677 vets in the program, we're going to focus on trying to get old dogs out of the shelters and pair them with the older vets. So out of that 18 million veterans that are in this country right now, 12 million of them are 55 and older, right? And so many of them might not want to deal with a puppy or have that type of issue. They might want a dog in their life, and they're probably more willing to take on an older dog so long as that somebody provides the training and the education around that. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to make this more accessible for everybody, so that everybody gets the dog in their life that's going to serve them in the capacity that they want them served. That's going to meet their needs and their lifestyle, and then provide that service member to have an opportunity to pay it back, pay it forward, however you want to look at it, by doing community service.
Well, you've put together an incredible program, just all of the moving parts when you talk about taking the dogs, helping individuals get them trained,
Mm-hmm.
gamifying the whole process in order to give people an ongoing incentive to continue to participate and engage with what you're talking about. Um, it's a great thing, and as you said, the data is pretty clear in terms of showing people having that companionship and that relationship with a dog or with any pet really, but the
Mm-hmm.
dogs are obviously more active for people to go out and do things.
Sure.
And unless you get that pet tiger from Houston, that you can go walk with. But um, it's interesting because you talked about 150,000 is the need
Yeah.
in terms of what's out there, and I think the number you said 800,000 that are killed every year, right?
Right.
And it's crazy when you look at those numbers because you think about if we save 20% of the dogs that are being killed, that's more than enough to give every single person in that 150,000 a
Sure.
dog.
But the problem there is that 150,000, they need a medical assistance dog. So it's going to be full public access. And the majority of the time, that's going to be a purpose bred dog, because that the level of competence that that dog is going to need is much higher than most dogs. So where it actually matches better is that 800,000 to essentially 18 million vets, of which we can assume if it's the same um, ratios as the civilians, which the military is typically a microcosm of our society, if 72% of American households already have a dog in it, then roughly 70% of that 18 million already have a dog or are in search of a dog, right? And what we found is we're getting 30 to 40 applications a week from veterans, and about 70% of them already have a dog. The other percentage, a higher percentage of that, they're actually looking for a shelter dog or willing to take on a shelter dog because they know they don't need a medical assistance dog, but they really want what we call a life buddy. And a life buddy entails an emotional support dog, a comfort dog, a therapy dog, a companion dog, any of the other labels you want to put on. We just put it under life buddy. And if they need that service dog, which you can use some rescues for, it's just a lot harder and it's a lot harder to predict. We're getting them into the right academies. And again, so this way everybody wins, right? We're with the Life Buddy, the families can really participate in the training as well. And what we've seen from a lot of vets, like myself, so I'm missing a leg and I've taken on a rescue. His name is Loki. He's a German Shepherd mix. He's sleeping right here next to me right now. But we're working on teaching him how to fetch my prosthetic and stuff, mostly just for fun, right? I'm doing that. But my wife is here. I'm still young and able, can grab my prosthetic and stuff. Like even my kids like to go get the prosthetics, right? So I don't really need it in that full medical capacity. But just walking him, playing fetch with him, especially if I'm having one of those stressful days, or especially if, it just makes me focus on having a routine that focuses on me as well. Walking him, grooming him, all that stuff that we have to do with them because they're dependent on us also helps me kind of work through some of those stress and some of that anxiety that we can all feel, but it's really prevalent in that veteran community. Many of the other vets talk about how they knew that Sierra Delta was going to train their dogs, and with the app and with that positive reinforcement that we're giving them, they all say, like, we didn't know you were going to train us too, but we like it. And that's the good thing, right? So I mean, as you see it, it's a win-win. I know I'm not saving the world, and I don't pretend to be, but we are providing a great service and developing a really great community that really harkens to something very simple, the love that a dog provides, and that the love that we have as a people towards these animals, and building a community around that focused on loving your country and loving your dogs, and that's it. It's a nice thing to be a part of. I can tell you that.
Well, and I'm going to challenge your assertion that you're not saving the world, because I think by saving one person, right, you're
Yeah.
saving the world. And so as you're impacting now 677 people in the program and growing every day,
Yep.
I think that you're making a big difference, because those individuals become role models for next wave of
Yep.
veterans, next wave of individuals who've been injured serving the country. Um, and I think that there's an enormous power in that. And I think you see the concept that the challenges people go through in life are different, but the mentality of overcoming those obstacles is something that can be translated across whatever the obstacle may be. And so,
Absolutely. Yeah.
whether
And I
it's,
mean, that's what we speak to, that a lot of times this is preventive medicine. This is how we approach it. That's why we want healthy vets, or vets that think that they're doing okay. And eventually, I think we're going to open this app to the civilian population at large, mostly so they can see what's happening. We can also, when you can track all your dog's medical um, records, medical issues, dietary needs, um, training certificates, and all that, all on the app. It's connected right to a store that is called Rook's Place. It's a pet store. 100% of the proceeds go back to run the programs at Sierra Delta. So it's this really nice ecosystem that we developed. And there's training tips on videos. You can connect right with a trainer in your area, a lot of times through Zoom. We learned that through the pandemic, and that's how we were able to kind of keep scaling up, was because of the technology that we brought to the table, that we really brought to bear. And I think this is going to help not only with the veteran population, but hopefully eventually we can help expand out to the civilian population, and allow more people to get some sort of help without having it to be a full medical assistance service dog and all the public access that comes with. A lot of people just need just a little bit, just a good dog that's welcome where most dogs are, where dogs are welcomed. And that is growing. Many of the stores around here are all dog friendly. A lot of your hotels are dog friendly. Many of your restaurants are becoming dog friendly. So there's a lot of places that are dog friendly. What we really are focused on is really training the dog owners and handlers, and the dogs, to have that good canine citizen, and for them to really understand each other. I mean, this is a relationship no different than a marriage, no different than being a parent. And by giving them the resources to be successful in that relationship, helps them go out and be successful in their community.
so you talked about the training a little bit and what that process looks like. Where do you find your trainers?
So one of the great things is, with this app that we have, trainers can apply to us, and then we vet them. So our director of training is Derek Tillman. He's got 20 years in the Army as a dog handler and dog trainer in the Army. And then he's got all his accreditations throughout all the other training networks, and spent the past 6 years um, working at the VA, heading up the VA study if there's a difference between emotional support dog or service dog. And of the 150 vets half of them got an emotional support dog and half of them got a full-blown medical assistant service dog, and they were followed for 3 years. There was no statistical difference between the outcome. Both groups had the same tangible, positive impact on their life. And so that's what really kind of reinforced this. And when I presented it to him at the VA, he's like, "You're on the right track." And so he's left the VA, he's come to work for us. We also have Anthony Smith, who's another career Army veteran, dog professional. And they are vetting all the trainers that are applying. They're looking at their backgrounds, and then they're monitoring the training. So the trainers provide a curriculum that they're going to give the vets. And then our master trainers approve the payment. So we pay the trainers directly. And we're getting a lot more efficiencies in the system as we get more and more trainers on board. Now we're also partnering with academies across the United States, and in ways where we can help a lot of these small academies vet these men and women. With our system, we have ID.me integrated right into our application process. So we're able to verify service within 30 seconds. Sometimes it takes a couple of hours. On a very few cases, we have to do more digging. 99% of people we can get done in 30 seconds. We can help increase the efficiencies for these academies as well, because we can also bring them back. Can you hear me, or did everything die
It
out?
went a little quieter.
All right, can you hear me? I'm so sorry
Yep.
about that.
Yep, we'll chop that
All right,
out.
all right, perfect, good. I'm glad you can edit. I was like, oh my gosh, that did not just happen.
Yep. Well, so we'll pick up. We're with BJ
Yeah.
Ganem of Sierra Delta, and he's telling us about the amazing work they do and how they're looking at the training, making sure that the trainers that they bring into the system are verified and have an appropriate curriculum for what the program looks like. Thank you for staying with us on Sports Philanthropy Network. And BJ, so you talked a little bit about the process and the app and that the trainers go through. So now that they've been approved by you, what's the mechanism for the vets to decide who they want to use to train their animal?
That's a great question. So the vets, when we have trainers in that area, first of all, we figure out, are you wanting to work a dog alongside a trainer, or are you looking for a pre-trained dog? Do you feel like you need more of a medical assistance dog? If they need a medical assistance dog, we're going to get them into these academies. And there's a handful of really, really good ones, and there's more of them popping up. But if they feel like they can work with the dog and a trainer in their own time, and they're looking to get more to that good canine citizen, emotional support animal, that life buddy lane, then they're able to choose from the trainers that we have vetted in their area. And then they basically have an interview. And then they get to decide who they want to work with. Now, we've also had it to where they go with one for puppy training. And maybe we have a trainer that's really good at doing puppy training, and then they move on to somebody else for the intermediate training. And then again, if they feel like they want to go further and the trainer and the veteran coordinator all agree that, yeah, we can see you going forward with this dog, then we might even have a third trainer that comes into the mix, depending on what they want to do. So it's custom built to their specific needs and lifestyle, but it also is dependent on what's in the area and what we can do feasibly. And again, that is growing. We do have a partnership with the Department of Labor for an apprentice program, and it's called the Sierra Delta Life Buddy Apprentice Program. And right now we're talking with a few franchise dog trainers to become on as the employee partner. That's the last thing we need to launch this. And what this does is it allows these organizations to hire people that are in the apprentice pool that have applied to the Department of Labor to become a dog trainer, specifically to help train dogs for vets. And so once that organization, let's say it's Sit Means Sit, it's a nationwide training, right? They pick an apprentice, they then get IRS tax benefits, right, for hiring on that apprentice. And then the Department of Labor pays the apprentice a 2-year cost of living stipend on top of what their hourly rate that they're getting from working as an apprentice. And then that way we can create more ethical and like-minded dog trainers out there. So as we hope to increase the amount of veterans that we're getting into this program for 2021, our goal is to get to 1,000 veterans in 2021. That'll equal all the other veteran dog programs combined happening. Right now, it's only 1,000 vets a year get help with dogs. We want to double that this year. Hopefully, next year we'll triple it, and we'll continue to keep growing it to scale, utilizing the technology, utilizing uh, helping vets that are maybe not in a crisis moment, maybe not in severe need, but if we get them working with that dog and getting them work on empowerment and purpose and innovation and getting connected to a community, they won't get there. You know what I mean? We kind of divert it earlier on by bringing them into being a part of their own solution, right? And having fun doing it, gamifying it, and making it a fun process instead of always making it a task that we have to do, right? We have to go to the VA. We have to go to see the doctor, right? Something that we want to do.
Well, you're doing incredible work, and I think the system you've set up already and what you're building is really going to make an amazing impact. And certainly we've got some people in our network I'm going to introduce you to that I think would be
Right.
great fits to help on that. But if there's other people listening that would like to reach out and learn more about Sierra Delta, what's the best way for them to get that information?
So first of all, you can go to sierradelta.com. You can find us on all the socials. Sierra Delta Service Dogs for Veterans. You can find more information about me at bjganem.com. My cell phone is on my Facebook. It's on my webpage. We have the info at Sierra Delta, info at BJ Ganem. Reach out if you're a veteran and you want to learn more. You can just go to apply. It's really simple. You'll get an ID me verification name. So even if you don't take part in our programs for whatever reason, you still have that ID me username and password that helps you get into other discounts and other things, verifies you as a veteran, so to speak. So it's a great tool in itself. And yeah, I mean, definitely get involved with us through social. I mean, the more you like us and the more you share us, the more you talk about us, helps us get into those corporations. We have Blue Buffalo as a corporate sponsor. We have North American Motor Car as a corporate sponsor. We have Valorcraft, CBD. All these other companies are starting to come in. But the one threshold we got to get over, and I'm sure, Roy, this, is we got to have a good following on social. We got to have a good impact. So, when you follow us, you do help us gain this corporate support. And this is what it's built for. Again, if we can get 0.5% of that $75 billion a year spent on pet products diverted towards running these programs, that'd be $375 million a year. That's more than enough money to solve this problem once and for all, both for the dogs and the vets. It's the best 2-for-1 deal you got out there in the nonprofit world.
Well, BJ, I give you a lot of credit for getting everything rolling. I know you're on the right track, and we look forward to working with you and supporting those efforts. Um, Before we let you go, I do want to take a moment to put you on the spot for a minute, and we're going to use our sports philanthropy superpowers, and we're going to wave our magic wand here, and we're going to appoint you commissioner of a sport. So I want you to tell us what sport that would be.
Man, what sport that would be. I'm truly interested in the video gaming sport, right? I think it's called is it
Esports.
esports, right? So if I was the commissioner of esports while it's in its infancy and it's coming about, I would really focus a lot on how to tie in community service with that. I think the NFL does a good job, of encouraging. You have the Walter Payton Award. You have all these other awards that really, and getting to know the NFL players like I've been lucky enough to in the past decade. There's a lot of them that are engaged in community service, and I think a lot of the other established sports are bringing that about. So I think with this new esports, if I could be the commissioner, the one thing I would do as they're building their business models and as they're, expanding their growth and all that, would be finding a way to connect these young people that have huge followings already into making a difference in their own communities and making a difference in how we do things.
right from the get-go. It'd be interesting to see how that would work.
Well, I think that would be a great model, and a model that could be built into all of the sports as they continue to grow and evolve. So, BJ, congratulations again on everything you've accomplished with Sierra Delta, and thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm sorry about the earbuds quitting on me, but
No worries. And for all of our viewers and listeners, we appreciate you taking the time to join us for this edition of the Sports Philanthropy Podcast. This is your host, Roy Kessel, signing off. Please remember to live generously. Thank you.
Thank you.